our 148th meeting of the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage. We are continuing our study of Bill C-91, an Act Respecting Indigenous Languages. We have with us today Casey Hunley and Francine Joe from the Native Women's Association of Canada. We have with us by video conference Vivian Ayungman, Coordinator Research and Program Development at Siksika Studies, Old Sun Community College. Sorry, why can't I say that? College. There you go, sorry. And we have with us Margaret Peters, Mohawk Language Curriculum and Resource Developer. I will begin with a person by video conference just in case we run into any technical difficulties. So if we can begin with you, Ms. Ayungman, please.
Okay, dito ko na po. Niswana ko CHPC Piaki. Good afternoon. I bring you greetings from the Siksika Nation in southern Alberta. I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to add to this very important discussion. I have been in education for 50 plus years after I got my degree from the University of Calgary and then eventually 3 graduate degrees. And as I worked in education over these years, I have been involved in curriculum development because when I started teaching, I quickly realized that the curriculum wasn't getting to the hearts of our students. It wasn't reaching them. So I was always developing curriculum voluntarily. And I've always tried to promote these initiatives because over the years, I developed this passion because I knew we were robbed of our heritage. We were robbed of the right to be who we are, to learn our culture, to learn our language, because I was separated from my large extended family at the age of 7 years old. I went to the boarding school and did not speak a word of English. So I feel very cheated and very robbed. And so I have tried in earnest to contribute to the knowledge that our people need. In the 1980s, at Siksika, we began efforts in earnest to revitalize the use of the Siksika language because we knew that it was in decline. And it was when we spoke to the local school principal, who was a nation member, and he told us that in the grade 1 to 9 school, he could count on one hand the number of speakers. That really shook us up. We didn't realize how bad it was, and that was in the 1980s. It was a real challenge to conduct our work with very little funding, and at the time, what was known as the Secretary of State told us that we came from one of the largest tribes of this country. So why would our language be in jeopardy? So what we ended up doing was having to justify why we needed funding. So with the team I was working with, and I as a volunteer, did a major study on the status of the Siksika language. And we did 2 studies, one in 1985 and a follow-up one in 1991. And what we found in the study, we tested every child in our schools. And we did a random selection of households, and we interviewed elders. And all of these groups corroborated and triangulated the evidence that we were looking for. And what it clearly showed us was that we used the proficiency scale, 0 meaning no knowledge of the language, 1 meaning some understanding but not being able to speak. Everyone under the 21 years of age scored below 1. So they were either 0, the majority were 0, and some had some understanding. So we really had to do a lot of work, and at the time we considered very critical work. We went back, and because of our study, we were able to access some funds from the province of Alberta. And with this little bit of funding that we got, we developed 3 comprehensive levels of teaching the Siksika language. We developed comprehensive kits, but we always knew it was just the tip of the iceberg. We had so much work to do. And then Heritage Canada came up with funding to fund Indigenous languages. But at the time, the only groups funded at realistic levels were those that were considered endangered, the most endangered. And so what did that mean for us? We were not on that list, and yet we knew we had critical work to do. The study that we did told us that in 30 years' time, our speakers would be in their late 50s, which is right now. And that is exactly what's happening. Hardly anybody under 50 speaks the language. I have developed, as I said, curriculum over time, over these years, these decades, 50 some odd years as an educator. And I was semi-retired from my work with the First Nations Adult and Higher Education Consortium, and Old Sun Community College at Siksika recruited me to assist with their curriculum development. My doctorate degree is in curriculum development and instruction. And being a fluent speaker, they thought I would be an asset to the team. So I told them I would do it on condition that I got to work with our ceremonial knowledge keepers. So to make a long story short, I worked with this team, and was it ever an eye-opener? Because I used to say to people, I'm a proud Siksika woman, but in working with these ceremonial knowledge keepers, I really saw just how much of my way of life I did not know about. I'm a fluent speaker, and I found that there were there was a whole vernacular that I could not understand very well. It was the whole language of ceremony, the essence of who we are as Siksika people. And I thought, if I, as a fluent speaker, do not speak that language and understand some of that terminology, we're in real hot water. And so anyway, it was a really wonderful team to work with, because they really opened my eyes to the really critical work we had to do. As a result of my work with our ceremonial knowledge keepers, we ended up developing 37 Siksika studies courses that are all at the college level. And most of these are transferable to the public institutions, U of C, St. Mary's University, Athabasca University. But in implementing these courses, the language is critical to teach the essence of what those topics are. Because and I teach some of those topics, and I find myself saying a lot of the Siksika words that would describe exactly what it is we're talking about. And our young students really long to learn the language. So we have a lot of work to do. We're now looking at immersion programming at all levels. We want to develop immersion curriculum for the little guys, because we've talked to our other Indigenous groups from other places, and they say the place to start is with the very young ones. Teach them the language, they'll grow up with it. But the reality is, we might do that, but what will they go home to? They will go back to homes where they don't hear the language. So we're trying to do work at all fronts, including adult language immersion, so that they're actually learning as families, and we're trying to go in that direction. But realistically, when we don't have funding, it's a very tough task to do, because we don't want to just have our speakers and our ceremonial knowledge keepers to volunteer their time. It's really critical to recruit whoever we can. And time is of the essence to do this important work, when our treasures are still here with us. Every month, some of our elders are gone. And while we still can, we want to work with them. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission and other entities recommend teaching language culture, but a lot of those funds are being directed to public institutions? Can they realistically develop the important curriculum for us? At our college, we can provide the context. We are with our ceremonial knowledge keepers who speak the language, who live our way of life. And the work that we're developing is very rich, really rich. They cannot get that.
Ms. Youngman, I just have to warn you, you went slightly over time, so if you could just wrap it up.
Okay. Oh, okay. And then with that, I just want to say that it's really important, it's really critical that this funding go to the First Nations groups, because that's the heart of where the language and culture are. And if it's not supported at that level, we're in, I can say some four-letter words, but I don't want to.
Appreciate that. I appreciate holding back on the four-letter words. Thank you very much, though. And on that colorful note, we will now go to Margaret Peters, please.
I acknowledge everyone here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me to provide my voice. My real name is Kawinuni, and that means she makes the way. She makes the way, is what I said. And I'm Onondaga Nation and I'm Snipe Clan, but I'm a fluent Mohawk speaker. First and foremost, I am a grandmother and I am a mother and grandmother. The retention, restoration, revitalization, and the reinforcement of the Mohawk language is both a personal and professional endeavor for me. My work is not considered by me as a job, but rather as a responsibility that I will help do everything in my power to provide opportunities for our community members to be able to learn Ganyageha, the Mohawk language. I could easily fulfill my obligation if you, as representatives of Canada, remain true to your word and fulfill your duties that you have laid out in the various sections of Bill C-91 that state it is an act respecting Indigenous languages. Under Section 5, Part 4, it states that the purpose of the act is to support Indigenous language learning and cultural activities inclusive of language nests and immersion programs. Within our community, we have been fortunate to have established 2 immersion schools. Akwesasne Freedom School, although independently run through grants and donations and fundraising efforts, they have a tuition agreement with the Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education. Even with all the hard work the parents do to fundraise, the dedicated language teachers receive a salary that is not even at par with the poverty level in Canada for a family of 4. And I read that in December of 2014 was less than $42,000 per year. This is a reality within many Native communities who struggle to maintain a sufficient level of education and struggle more than triple when it comes to the desire for language implementation. The emphasis for language funding needs to be placed on immersion programming, like she said, on immersion programming, as we all are well aware that the 40-minute core language classes do not produce fluent speakers. Am I right? In the present day, I work for the Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education as Ganyageha, Mohawk language curriculum and resource developer. The struggle that we have is that we don't have a lot of fluent speakers we just can't find people that speak to come and teach the language. I can't blame you who are present here today, because it wasn't your fault. You didn't want kids removed from their families and sent to residential schools. But I can blame you if you don't take any action today and fulfill what you know is required for the people to restore their languages into the future for the 7th generation. In Section 9, under agreements or arrangements, it states that the purpose of the Act takes into account the unique circumstances and needs of Indigenous groups in a manner consistent and jurisdictions of the provinces and of Indigenous governing bodies and the rights of the Indigenous people is recognized by Section 35, Part 1 of the Constitution Act of 1982, which states that the existing and Aboriginal treaty rights of the Aboriginal people in Canada are hereby recognized and affirmed. Any treaties and agreements that were made with Canada and the Act needs to be ratified and omit that agreements or arrangement takes into account the needs of Indigenous groups in a manner consistent with the jurisdiction of the provinces. The treaties were made with Canada, not with, it's not at the provincial level. They were made with Canada. In Section 6, the bill states that the Government of Canada recognizes that the rights of Indigenous peoples and is affirmed in Section 35 of the Constitution Act of 1982 that include rights related to the Indigenous peoples. I'm just kind of rereading some of the Canadian laws and, ours were the original languages of Canada, and that word Canada became Canada. And that's what the name of the country is. And it seems only right to respect the original people of this land by reaffirming the recognition and endowing us the same status which gives French and English equal status in the Government of Canada that makes theirs official languages. It has a preferred status in law over all other languages because it is common knowledge that the Indian residential school system was a network of boarding schools for Indigenous peoples, and that the network was funded by the Canadian government's Department of Indian Affairs. The equal amount of funding needs to be administered back into the reclamation of our languages, as was put in to abolish our languages. I don't know the dollar amount, but I can estimate that it's in the ballpark, I'm a little bit nervous, I'm sorry, ballpark of billions of dollars. And excuse my estimation if I'm wrong. In Section 7, long-term funding needs to be changed to ongoing funding. Long-term funding implies that the funding will be administered for a questionable length of time, and this would not provide the said adequate and sustainable funding for the reclamation, revitalization, maintenance, and strengthening of Indigenous languages into the next century. As Ungwahumwe, the real and natural people of this part of the world, I would like to remind you as representatives of Canada to go beyond the talk, because words are only words, unless a conscious choice is made to act upon them. I'm standing in front of you, but I'm sitting. I'm sitting in front of you all today, and I'm speaking on behalf of my grandchildren. Lalihwazesta, Talahquahas, Deagutsa de Dinyo, Lanihtanamata, Loha Dio, Yagugalio, Yinihtahawe, and Lalanahawi, so that they and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren and the faces that are yet to come have ample opportunities to continue learning their language. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
And next we have the Native Women's Association of Canada, and we have with us Ms. Francine Joe and Ms. Casey Hunley. Thanks.
White, bonjour, and good afternoon, Madam Chair. I'm Francine Joe, President of the Native Women's Association of Canada. I'd like to begin by acknowledging we are gathered on the Algonquin Anishinaabe people's traditional and unceded territory. Since 1974, the Native Women's Association has been the chosen national representative of grassroots Indigenous women, girls, and gender-diverse people. We represent First Nations, on-reserve, off-reserve, status, non-status, disenfranchised, Métis, and Inuit. We defend their rights, and we advocate for those voices that are not heard. Today, I sit before the House of Commons to outline NWAC's significant concerns about Bill C-91, an act respecting Indigenous languages. Heritage and Multiculturalism Minister Pablo Rodriguez tabled Bill C-91 without meaningfully consulting NWAC. The co-development process excluded us. NWAC supports the Government of Canada's efforts to preserve, promote, and revitalize First Nations, Métis, and Inuit languages, and agrees Bill C-91 is essential. But NWAC cannot fully support it without major revisions to address these disparities. First, Bill C-91 does not include a culturally relevant gender-based lens. Intersectional lenses are imperative to every government policy and legislative decision. It reveals the distinct and unique impacts legislation will have on marginalized and vulnerable groups, especially Indigenous women. This is essential to meet their needs and implement effective legislation. Additionally, this must be led by Indigenous women. We are the keepers of traditions, of cultures, of languages. We are the hearts of the communities, and we are the mothers teaching our children how to communicate. Indigenous women must be the foundations of all language revitalization efforts with full inclusion. NWAC strongly recommends the government meaningfully consult with us to apply culturally relevant gender-based analysis and hear the concerns and solutions Indigenous women, girls, and gender-diverse people have to contribute. Second, Bill C-91 does not take a distinctions-based approach. You cannot treat the preservation of each language identically with a blanket approach, or it will fail. A distinctions-based approach considers how a specific policy, program, service, or piece of legislation will affect First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities across Canada differently. The Act does not specify whether non-status Indigenous women and their children have any language rights. It does not state how Métis people living all over Canada, not just in the West, will be represented and included. Nor does it take into consideration the needs and priorities of Inuit communities. While 2/3 of the Inuit population can speak Inuktitut, this number is steadily declining. NWAC recommends, before passing Bill C-91, it must clearly outline how it will account for the distinct contexts, needs, and priorities of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities with regards to language revitalization. Thirdly, the Act must specify its legally binding commitment to provide adequate, sustainable, and long-term funding for Indigenous languages. Funding is one of the most substantial barriers to language revitalization. On February 7th, Mr. Virani stated over and over again in the consultations that what we need is supports in terms of resources, and what we need is stable, long-term, predictable funding. Outside of the preamble, the Act does not specify the government has legal obligations to create adequate, predictable, sustainable, and long-term funding. This is not a question of determining a funding amount, but about distributing allocated funding enshrined in Bill C-91. NWAC recommends before Bill C-91 is passed, it must clearly outline a legally binding commitment to provide adequate, sustainable, and long-term funding. Lastly, the Act must specify its commitment to Jordan's Principle. Jordan's Principle is a child-first principle aiming to ensure First Nations children have access to all essential public services, regardless of jurisdiction. Language education is an essential public service for all Indigenous children. Currently, every Indigenous language in Canada faces potential extinction. We are in an urgent state for language education. There cannot be any delay in services due to payment disputes within or between the federal and provincial governments, because we know language education is fundamental to identity, culture, and the history of our nations. Language education is an essential service, yet Indigenous languages are not treated as essential services. Would anyone deny language services for the cultural survival of French Canadians? NWAC recommends, before being passed, that Bill C-91 must clearly outline its commitment to Jordan's Principle, as Indigenous languages must be treated as an essential service. Thank you. Merci. Kukschacha.
Thank you to all of you. We are now going to begin our question and answer period. The questioners will have 7 minutes for the questions and the answers combined. We will be beginning with Mr. Long for 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our presenters. Good afternoon to my colleagues. This, in my opinion, is landmark legislation. I'm a business guy. My background is business, and I'm always kind of more in execution and implementation. So I think my concern is this, and I'm looking for your guidance, Ms. Youngman, Ms. Peters, Ms. Joe. With respect to C-91 in the rollout of this, knowing that you know, from the federal government, there's provincial governments, there's municipal governments, there's communities, there's villages, there's, you know, different ways, shapes, and forms. Now, Mr. Youngman, you said that, you know, you wanted the money to flow directly to you and kind of circumvent, but, you know, other layers, if you will. But ideally, how do you see this rolling out? How do you see the funding reaching the appropriate groups? Because one of the concerns I have, if you're talking, you know, education or healthcare or what have you, there's a lot of infrastructure that's already there that can, you know, apply for money, disperse money, funding, etc. So can you just kind of give me your comments, Mr. Youngman, as to how you would see the funding rolling out to different groups across the country? Thank you.
The group that I can speak for are the Siksika people. I'm from the Siksika First Nation, and internally as a group, we do meet about interagency work. So we do assist each other, and that's how we would organize. We would try to see who would be in the best position to do whatever. And we already do that. Like, we work closely with the Siksika Board of Education because they are in need of developing resources. We at the college assist them. The social services department try to assist their clients, and they work closely with us. But where there's a gap is how we fund the people with the knowledge, the ceremonial knowledge keepers, the elders, all of those people that have the knowledge to give. Yes, we can pool our resources, but usually those resources are already earmarked.
Ms. Peters?
It's almost the same as what she said in our community. Like, when the funding comes through, it's not designated specifically for language, but we have the Mohawk Board of Education, and and it's the first time really in history within the past decade or more that we've had an immersion program. So when the funding is funneled through to the Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education, we're overseeing the whole education system, but at this point, like, we have kind of like equal status with the English program right now. We've never had that kind of support from before. So what we need in our community is we need to get language training for our people that want to learn the language, and we need teacher training for people that are fluent and need to learn how to teach the language. So that funding would be funneled through there. And like I said, we have a tuition agreement with the independent school. So any language funding that we get stays within, you know, that area of language revitalization.
Ms. Joe, I'm sorry that you feel that your organization wasn't consulted. I'm truly sorry about that. Did you had no avenue to submit, or you weren't consulted at all?
After the legislation was proposed, we received it. That was proposed, I believe, on a Monday. And we received the legislation on Wednesday, and staff spent the next 24 hours analyzing the legislation and then presented their analysis on Friday. That was the extent of our engagement with this legislation.
So to be clear, is it safe to say that you think C91 is a good start, but needs amendments, or needs? I mean, you suggested some amendments. Is that where
yes.
you would like to go with it?
Yes, I do think, and especially in you were asking about the funding areas. I think I know our organization. I'm sure the other two ladies, we've written many proposals, and it's kind of a time-consuming every year to have to write these proposals when we know what the community needs. The community knows what they need. So I think we need to have funding that's flexible and fluid and programs that are co-developed with community members. Okay. You're right, you know, there's a lot of overlap in my own territory. I have about 5 languages. I have in Clackamas, I have Statlium, I have Okanagan, I have Chilcotin, and I have Secwepemc. You know, and that's within an hour's drive of Merritt, BC.
So there's 90, is it safe to say there's 90 Indigenous languages in Canada? Is it safe?
And then you have the dialects on the side.
Dialect, okay. A previous presenter, I believe it was Jennifer Wickham, talked about kind of 3 phases of language development, if you will. The first phase she had was revitalization, and then she went to stabilization, and then extension. How, this would be for you, Ms. Joe, if you don't mind. How long do you think it will take? And like, you know, this, again, I'm proud of this bill. I think it's a great start. It's not perfect, but, you know, it's something that I think we can build on. How long will it take to see Indigenous languages go from, you know, revitalization to stabilization to extension? Do you see this unfolding over 10 years? It's going to take a lot longer than that.
You're already right at your time, so I'm just going to give Ms. Joe, I would like to give her the time to quickly respond to that, if you can give a short answer, which I know it's not a short question.
Right. I guess in a nutshell, I think it really depends upon the communities, because some of our communities are already working on the revitalization, but it also depends because our fluent speakers, I mean, my uncle Jimmy Tulikin just passed away last fall, you know, and he was one of the probably 24 fluent speakers of Clackamas. So if we don't do this sooner, you know, we're going to be penalizing our children.
Okay. Thank you.
We will now go to Mr. Shields, please, for 7 minutes.
Chairman, appreciate all of our witnesses here today. Appreciate the information you're bringing to us. I'd like to start with Siksika Vivian Youngman, and I've been in the Old Sun College, and they're doing some very, very interesting things. But you're right about the people who have the knowledge and how, even though you are a very large band with significant resources, getting it to the right place is critical. And I think you've identified. So the funding, in a sense, there's way, and my colleague was mentioning funding in a sense that we've had organizations here, national organizations, saying, give the funding to us, and we'll figure out what to do with it. But I don't think that's what you would suggest. Would I be right?
You're correct. Because when it happened the last time with, well, I mean, I don't want to go back, but one of the realities that happened is that there was the Aboriginal Language Initiative, and I think unnecessary red tape was created. We had an experience here in Alberta where there was funding, but it was channeled through organizations, and it took forever for it to get from one entity to the provincial entity, and finally crumbs to the communities. So as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of wastage along the way. We critically need the funding at the local level because, as I said, we know what it is that we need. We need to work with our ceremonial knowledge keepers and our seniors who are speakers of the language. So there's 2 distinct groups, if you understand where I'm coming from. These ceremonial knowledge keepers have critical knowledge that provides the context. The others who are seniors have life experiences, and most of them boarding school related type experiences. But at our local level, that's where we need to decide, okay, where do we get the greatest mileage? And internally, we can organize and say, okay, you do this part, you do the research, you do the interviews, you do the apps, you do the teacher training, you do the implementation. We need to approach it at all fronts, but within our First Nation, that's where we need to determine how we'll approach it.
And I think as you're expressing that, you've expressed basically one size doesn't fit all. I mean, you have an excellent council that has to work with a large number of things in your community, but at least the decision would be made within your community, as in a sense, as if the money comes to that council directly rather than through other layers, it gives you the opportunity to work with that funding at that level of decision making.
Exactly. To us, it's really important because within our nation, we are unique. We have a unique history, and we are all at different places in terms of where we are with our culture. And some people may overlook all of the ceremonial and historical stuff. At our nation, it's critical. So, and nobody else can ever tell us how to be Siksika and how to go about, doing that. We have to do it internally, and we have been doing it very successfully at Ulsan College by creating all these 37 courses. But to implement those 37 courses, we need to keep researching them, and a lot of it with local knowledge. There are still people who have the oral stories. We're not interested in listening to somebody else's oral stories. It's our local stories that we need to gather. It's our apps that we need to develop. We developed a language app, very important tool, but it's very costly to do apps.
No, I really appreciate that. I think with the act, and specifically, Ms. Jo, in a sense, as you're explaining some of the specifics and the consultation, I think we have heard from others that feel very left out of this process. You're not the only one we've heard from that was very concerned, the lack of consultation. Once again, I'll give you a few seconds to explain how critical that was to you and what you had to do, we've heard. But how left out did you feel when you get this thing and realize who else had already known about it?
Well, for us, of course, I think for any Indigenous woman, languages is so important because we pass that on to our children.
Right.
We sing the songs of our own and tell the stories in our language. And that's the song, and it transcends so much because even though my auntie had Down syndrome, she knew the songs and she could sing me the songs. And unfortunately, when I went into elementary school, I lost that. I started not speaking my own language, and then I moved away, and I didn't have the support. So now I can't teach my own children the language. My mother can't because she was in residential school either. My grandmother is gone. So we need to have these resources archived, apped.
But you didn't get a chance to get consulted on that.
No, we can't share that. I think we have a lot. A lot of women have a lot to share about what we want to see with this act because it's going to affect our generations, our children.
Absolutely. Minute and a half. So, you've said some very specific things about the legislation. Do you believe you can fix it with those amendments?
As was stated, I think, I appreciate the time here to bring the concerns that we have. I'm concerned about what's going to happen after this legislation is passed. I want to ensure that the funding is going to get to the communities and make sure that it's the knowledge keepers, the fluent speakers, and sometimes our own local schools. In Merritt, BC, we have Nicola Valley Institute Technology that can help provide the support system to get the languages out there amongst our territory.
And following up with Mr. Long, I think that's what he's asking. How do you see that getting to you? Where does it get to you? Does it get through other organizations? Does it get out to provincial? How do you think it should get to you?
I guess on a First Nations, it depends from community to community. Some communities have their education system set up. Some communities have their own community-led initiatives in place. I'm sure the Inuit and the Métis have their own systems in place. But I know that for my own territory, we would probably be going through our bands and our local community college. But we need to make sure that the elders are being treated fairly.
So designated to your band with designation specific?
It's definitely up to the community, but definitely needs to go to the distinct groups that need this funding.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alors, nous avons avec nous Monsieur Saganache et
We have with us Mr. Saganache, and I believe you're going to share your time with Ms. Jolibois. You have 7 minutes.
I was going to mention that I was going to share my time with my colleague, but since you did, first of all, thanks to all of the presenters. The things that you have said to this committee today have been things that I have been saying over the years. with my colleague, and I'm honored to be sitting with my colleague today, two of the fluent speakers, Indigenous MPs in House of Commons. So I think you all spoke about the urgency of the matter with respect to Indigenous languages in this country. And I'm saddened to see that the purposes of this act under 5B1 suggests that we need to assess the status of Indigenous languages in this country when we all know that there's urgency in the matter. I'll be sharing my time with my colleague, but I wanna ask you, Francine, first, and this is going to be my only question because the government bragged about the fact that, and other leaders in this country have bragged about the fact that this legislation has been, quote unquote, co-developed. And when I attended the technical briefing when the bill was introduced in the House of Commons right after, and one of the questions I asked, and the parliamentary secretary who's in front of me right now can attest to this, one of the questions I asked was, when did the government of Canada stop considering the Native Women's Association of Canada as a national organization? Women are the language keepers. We all know that. In every Indigenous culture and tradition, they're the language keepers. I learned my language from my mom and my grandma. So I asked that question. There was no answer to that question. When did that stop? Well, how come you weren't involved in this so-called co-development of this legislation, which is pretty different in my view, and I said that in my speech when the bill was introduced, pretty different from co-drafting. I don't think the AFN held a pen in drafting this legislation. So when did that stop? I'd like to get that clear first.
I have to say, having been president since the fall of 2016, NWAC has unfortunately been overlooked quite often. We have been told by government organizations, government departments, that the women's voice is already represented by the other three national Indigenous organizations. However, you know, the reason we have this Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Inquiry is because the Native Women's Association had the Sisters in Spirit program that demonstrated there were over 500 missing and murdered women in Canada, Indigenous women in Canada. So there are definitely gaps happening. And when you have an organization, when you have Indigenous women already here in Ottawa, in every province, in two of the territories who want to work with this government because it will improve the communities, it saddens me to see that we're being ignored sometimes.
Thank you for making that comment, and I appreciate that comment because as an Indigenous speaking person here and a woman, I get treated like on a daily basis, and so thank you for validating that. Now, we have heard from ITK, AFN, and Métis National Council, and the two organizations, AFN and MNC, are very supportive of this legislation, and then with very limitations attached to it too. ITK, on the other hand, is not. And then I hear the code develop. For convenience sake, the government often say we have code develop, and then they list 5 organizations. That includes your organization, and that includes even Congress of Aboriginal Peoples. For their convenience sake, I have heard that. For this purpose, ITK is asking for official Indigenous status, a language status across Canada, and yesterday's witnesses spoke to that. How do you guys feel about that? Can we start with you over there in Alberta?
Oh, are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh.
To you? Oh. Yeah. You're the only one. Yeah.
Okay.
Over there, sorry.
Well, you know, I've worked with the indigenous colleges, and that has always been one of our arguments. We've always said, well, perhaps what we need to do is to gain official status and get the amount of money we really need to do this important work, because all of our First Nations colleges are doing critical work. They're doing the research, they're doing the development, they're doing the implementation of courses, or many times would like to. So there's a lot of initiatives on back burners because they do not have the funding. And Indian Affairs, in their wisdom or lack thereof in the last few years, there used to be monies that went off the top of First Nations dollars in education that went to post-secondary. Then off of the post-secondary dollars, they took a little bit to give to our First Nations colleges. But as I said, in their lack of wisdom or whatever, those monies became proposal-driven. And it was devastating to our First Nations colleges, because what happened in BC, none of the Indigenous institutions got any money. In Alberta, the first one to be hit was Red Crow Community College from the largest tribe in Canada. The next year, we got hit. So now the last 2 or 3 years, we have not received any federal funding. It's all going to public institutions who will teach us who we are, teach us our language. We've talked to them, and they don't have the programs we do. Our students come to us and they say, I never got this at that public institution. I'm so glad I'm coming here because I'm getting it. So what we have been saying over the years is, wouldn't it be wonderful if our languages were recognized as official languages and then the dollars pumped into it? And I want to thank the other ladies for talking about funding stability, long-term funding, because those are have always been issues for our First Nations colleges. We operate on year-to-year grants, on shoestring budgets, never quite knowing what is going to be funded. It would be so nice to know once and for all what we're going to be able to do within years to come, but we never get that opportunity.
So, and thank you. That brings you to the end of your 7 minutes, and we will now be going to Mr. Miller for 7 minutes.
Wakwana rado ize nenega se wa taruru. Koe koe anuni. Oniota hadre. Skana goga. Ah, ize yo yanere. One is a way.
Nada.
One is a here. One is a Rio.
Well, he could do one. He's not stuff. Story we stuff.
I first off want to acknowledge the two fluent language speakers that are members of Parliament here, members of the NDP who have spent a good part of their lives in the struggle to preserve Indigenous languages. I'm just a learner, and I do want to underscore that. Goeanuni, if you could speak briefly, I'm going to give my colleague Kantere the last couple minutes of my question, but I want to speak as to your struggle in your community to preserve the language. I visited Akwesasne Freedom School. It's a school that is built out of armed struggle over treaty rights, and out of that came a school that was able to preserve and underscore language, culture, tradition. What is your experience in ensuring that people actually become speakers?
When the Freedom School began, it was more like we had like a community political uprising in 1980. So the school basically began about 1980. People didn't want to send their kids to the, like board-run schools, I guess, federal-run schools. But anyway, so the people at that time decided they wanted to take education into their own hands, and I like what she had said about the ceremonial part, because that's what the Freedom School was pretty much based on. There's no separation of language and culture, and the Freedom School, when it first began, like I said, they really didn't have much money. It was just people that really wanted their kids to learn the language, and because they didn't have a chance to learn, the parents didn't have it, but they wanted a place that could provide kids, their kids the opportunity to learn. I remember when I first began there as a teacher in 1986. The Freedom School became immersion in 1985. I became a teacher in 1986, and I think we were making like $200 Canadian a week. And, you know, but anyway, we were there for years. A lot of teachers, some teachers before me were volunteering time. They got food baskets or, you know. So it's just the kind of struggles that we have, like in with our language situation. We have a population of 15,000 people, and we're lucky if we have maybe 700 speakers. And it kind of sounds like a lot compared to maybe other Native communities, because so many have lost, you know, like so many speakers. But we look at it, we're critical, like our language is like at a critical state too. I mean, I don't know if anybody here is bilingual, like if you speak French and English, and I don't know if that's your, you know, but I mean, what if all of a sudden there were no speakers left of French? You know, you can't find teachers to teach French in the schools, you can't find interpreters, you can't, you know, and that's the situation that we're in. The Freedom School, people said we didn't have real teachers because they didn't go to school to learn, but the school, since its operation, it has actually produced a lot of fluent speakers, and they become teachers in the school now. So the heart and the desire and the commitment to the language is in our community. We just are always struggling with going ahead. And we're always, and it's sad to say, it's always like we lack the funding to hire, you know, like to hire teachers or.
I believe that you were sharing time with Mr. Andesangre, so I am going to Mr. Andesangre, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here. Ms. Joe, I really do want to thank you for the work of NWAC. I know our government values the work that you do, and I think we've worked together on so many different initiatives. With respect to languages, I was rather perplexed, so I had to get some clarity from the department. And my understanding was, you know, you're right in the sense of co-development. We had 3 national indigenous organizations who were part of the co-development process, and NWAC was not one of them. But I'm advised that I believe we had 1,200 engagements with individuals and organizations with respect to the consultation. And I'm advised that NWAC participated in 5 of those engagement sessions, which is about 20 engagement sessions. I think you're part of about 5. And I'm also advised that NWAC received $166,000 in funding to undertake consultation, and that a written submission was received from NWAC. So my sense is that while you know, in your opinion, it may not be adequate, and I respect that if you feel that way, but we certainly want to put on the record that we definitely value and your perspective is essential to the work that we've done. And C91 in part reflects many of the things that were recommended by you and your organization and many of your members. So I do want to acknowledge it and thank you for raising you know, your concern, and certainly we will continue to engage on this as we go forward on the funding, on other aspects, and we will definitely work, you know, more collaboratively with NWAC and your team. Thank you.
There are a few minutes if you wanted to comment, or not a few minutes actually, sorry, a few seconds. If you wanted to add to that, and then we'll be closing this panel. So.
Make a comment about the work we do at my level. When I started doing the curriculum work at our college, I followed protocol and worked with our ceremonial people first. I had a feast, I met with them, I told them about the work we were going to do, and they said, we fully support your work, because I went to recruit them to work with our college. And they said, what we want to help you do is to open that darn closet. Our way of life, our language, and everything has been locked away for far too long. It's about time we opened that closet, because it brought me back to residential school. When we first got there, they put all of our personal items, our clothing, our language, our culture in a little sack and threw it in the closet and locked the door. They said, it's about time we open that door. We'll work with you. So I started working with them. And in ceremony, a lot of the people that conduct the ceremonies are men. But throughout, they said, talk to our Siksika women for the women's teachings. And so I work with a core group of Siksika women at our level, at our community level, and that's where we're getting the input from the women, the stories, the lullabies, the child rearing, women's roles. That's where all that is coming from, and it's very much Siksika culturally based. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. That does actually bring us to the end of our time for this panel. For everyone, if you have additional comments that you want to put in, you can also put comments in writing. You have to send them to the clerk, and I ask that you do that as quickly as possible just to make sure that it's within the time that we're considering this legislation. Thank you to this panel. We'll be suspending briefly, and then we'll be starting again with our next panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to start by asking everyone if we can start up again. This meeting, so our Thursday's meetings have been set up to start from 3:15 to 4:15. Without starting in a conversation about Thursdays in general when we're in the building, others request block, what I was going to ask is if for today it would be okay with everyone to extend to 5:30. That's. Do a 5-minute thing? Okay, I just wanted to check beforehand so that I can make sure I'm managing. So I will try and manage the time as I can. I don't want to take any more doing this. But yes, okay, so I'll try and end it by 5:15. If I can, 5:20 negotiation? Yes, kind of, okay. So we have with us today Grand Chief Wilton Littlechild, who will be arriving shortly. We have Chief Gerald Antoine from the Kliklikwan First Nation. Welcome, Mr. Grand Chief Littlechild. And then from the Cree Nation government, we have Grand Chief Abel Bosom. We have Sarah Pashagumskum and Tina Petawabano. And thank you. Oh, and we have Dorothy Stewart. So thank you. Oh, and we have Paul Joffe, the lawyer. So welcome back, Mr. Joffe. We're going to go in the order that you appear on the agenda. So if I can please begin with Grand Chief Wilton Littlechild for 8 minutes, please. Oh, thank you. Oh, I got one.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good evening to each and every one of you. Niganista tatamskadna ogakyo. Usamigok ogoma toskeun nstagi goyoche. Wawisota awasagoche ngetuan. Maikant mohteun sigasun. Maskochi sikoche. I just bring you greetings in my language to acknowledge Your Excellencies and all of the fellow panelists here in my language. To be grateful, I think, for this opportunity for me. I wanted to state at the outset, with your permission, Madam Chair, to indicate I'm appearing on my own individual behalf. I don't have the mandate to speak for Ermineskin, Saddle Lake, Alexander, Sunchild Ochis, and Onion Lake First Nations in Alberta, who desire to express their own sovereignty and have indicated to me that I don't speak on their behalf. So I'm hopefully, with your permission, Madam Chair, going to speak as an individual, perhaps more as a grandfather than anything else. So thank you for that. And also, as a prelude to my comments on the proposed Bill 91, I want to express a very sincere gratitude to all of you, to each and every one of you, for the work that you're doing here, as I said in my language. At an earlier time, in an earlier life, in the other place, as we used to call it, I had the great honor of giving my maiden speech in Cree in 1988 as a member of Parliament. But things were very different then. I won't go into all of the hoops I had to go through to do that. But I want to indicate then and now how important language is to not only identity and pride, but also to spirituality, which is an essence of who we are. During the United Nations debates, and I'm glad to see my brother Romeo here, he will remember, during the United Nations debates on the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, when the articles came up on languages, I spoke for 10 minutes in Cree at the UN. And you can imagine what the temperature of the room went up to. I asked people, how did you feel when I spoke my language? Were you angry? Were you disturbed? Because I could see the interpreters in their booths kind of looking at each other, and they were moving around. And I did that for a purpose, because the point I was trying to make was, when our ancestors signed Treaty 6, you can imagine how they must have felt when they didn't understand the languages that were being used. So I want to, again, do that today by addressing Bill C-91 through a treaty lens. Through a treaty lens. Because I think that there's some omissions in the bill from that perspective. But another experience I draw on was the first International Conference on Indigenous Languages, which was held in Japan in 2005. At that point, I gave an international legal framework for Indigenous languages that was then in place. I've also chaired some of the United Nations caucus meetings on Indigenous languages. A couple of weeks ago, or almost a month ago now, I guess, I had the pleasure of presenting at the launch of the International Year of Indigenous Languages. So this is a really historic time for this committee to be discussing such an important bill at this time of the year for its many reasons of importance. At the launch of the International Year of Indigenous Languages, I also referenced another part of my life, which was as a commissioner for Truth and Reconciliation, Commission of Canada. And for 6.5 years, as you all know, I'm sure, we went across the country listening to former students, survivors of residential schools, share their stories with us. And sometimes I would ask them, what does reconciliation mean to you? And I remember one old man say, reconciliation to me means you give me my language back. And he paused and then he said, no. Reconciliation for me means give me half of my language back and I'll be very, very happy. So then on another occasion, I had an opportunity that I want to share with you. I know some of you have heard me say this before, but I ask each of you, have you ever heard a language die? Have you ever heard a language die? One time at a meeting at the United Nations, we always offer invocation and prayer to begin our meetings. And we hadn't done that. And we asked an old man if he would be willing to say a prayer for us. And he said, I want you to listen very carefully. Listen to the sound of my voice. Listen to the words that I'm going to use. Because I am the last living person that speaks our language. And he went on to pray. And about a month later, I got a phone call. And there was a man that said, Willie, the old man died. And I said, what old man? You remember the man that prayed for us at the UN? He died. So I would not want to wish anyone to experience that because it was almost like somebody just hit me right in the gut. I didn't know the man, but I heard his language and I heard it die. That's how important this work is for me because of the situation of our languages across the country. I heard survivors many times in anger, many times in tears, say that they wished they could speak their language because they couldn't, because it was beaten out of them, they said, at residential school. So with that background, I look at Bill C-91 through the lens of a treaty. And I have some comments I want to make in that regard.
I'm just going to warn you that you've already gone a couple of minutes over, so if you can try and get them out quickly, because I want to make sure that we can hear from everyone on the panel as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
I was going to let you actually get your comments out if you wanted to right now. Just then I will go to Chief Gerald Antoine of the Cliquicwen, please.
Masi since masi nede sinne jo ka tutsen la ga metare aun de da jo kondisene zun kondise un litrit in de ga masi nede sinne. I like to thank the people here for giving me this time to share with you some of the things that you're deliberating on Bill C-91. I come from a community called Cliquicwen. I passed out Margot passed out the medallion. I'd like you to look at that because it's something that will tell you about our existence and also about a relationship that we have. One is that I'm a Dene person, and Dene is a four-letter word. Earlier on, one of the committees wanted to use a four-letter word, so I'm going to use a four-letter word, It's not a swear word, but there's two sounds that come from it. One is that DE, which is makes reference to the river. NE makes reference to the land. So when you say Dene, it makes reference that you are of the land and of the water. And that's what a Dene person is. And so one thing is that our land is really big. And Tlilin is a functional area. It's a place named for the confluence of Dehcho and Nachat Day. And the newcomers, they call that river Mackenzie and Liard River. This is a place where Pope Paul John also visited in 1987. I was the chief at that time, and today I'm the chief. Doesn't mean that I was chief all the time. I went on a walkabout just across here. I was an intern over at the Canadian Museum of Civilization, so I had a chance to visit some of our belongings and some of our relatives there. It's a special gathering place. And you'll notice that the spirit of our language, the Dene language and other indigenous languages that shared their voice here, illustrates who we are and the relationship we have with all living things in our home territory. We have lived through our functions and our responsibilities with the land since time immemorial. And we will continue to live this way of life. As we move forward, we will also continue to look for meaningful ways, as we have, of putting food on the table. We're part of a large linguistic family that spans from Alaska, the Northwest Territory, through southern Alberta to the northern territories of Mexico. I'm here to speak to you, with you from my position as chief, regarding this process, and to express 3 points of consideration, specific to jurisdiction, capacity, and process. I will conclude by offering the committee some solutions to the problem identified in this presentation. In 1921, you'll notice that on your medallion, 2 years from now, we're going to be commemorating 100 years of a relationship. And this relationship is an international relationship, and this is Treaty 11. My great-grandfathers, Etinlo and Nakeokon, were two of the leaders that engaged the representatives of the Crown in the right of Great Britain. And this agreement is inherited by Canada. By entering into this international arrangement, the Dene and the Crown recognized one another as nations and agreed to coexist in peace and friendship. At the time that this gathering of in preparation for this relationship, Dene Jati, Dene language was used to communicate with the Crown, making it a medium for our treaty relationship and a treaty right. The Dene language is the basic for understanding the spirit and intent of this relationship of coexistence. This is recognized by the Canadian courts in the Paulette case and within the international community to this date. Dene Jati expresses who we are and is our spiritual database. It is a cornerstone of our nationhood, transferred to us by our ancestors through countless generations of experiences and observations of the land and all living things. And today, I think people refer to this as traditional knowledge. However, from my context, is a lot more than that. Who we are is expressed through our language. This is the reason we did not cede anything when the Crown entered into treaty with us. We insisted that your people would peacefully coexist with us. We did not give up any of our inherent right or title. We retain our jurisdiction over ourselves and our inherent right to self-determination in all matters. It is from this foundation that I speak to you today. My second point is in regards to the context of Bill C-91 and the lack of an assurance that capacity will be made available for the revitalization and sustainability of Dene. This has occurred once before when the government of the Northwest Territory enact their Official Languages Act in 1984, recognizing the indigenous languages in our territory. This included Denejati. Although this act has been in place for 35 years, there are problems. The reason the Dene originally supported the act is that we thought it would help revitalize and protect our languages. There was help mandated by the Dene to ensure this legislation would work, but since then, capacity has been removed from the existing legislation. So how much time I got there?
A minute, but I've gave everybody else some 2 extras, so you can have 2 minutes.
Okay, so I just wanted to skip that part because I made my point. This is really significant, and I point out here because one only need examining the Northwest Territories Official Language Act in comparison to Bill C-91 to see striking similarities. This is alarming to me. Bill C-91 presents an updated version of the NWT Official Language Act with some language around reconciliation and indigenous rights sprinkled over it. However, the actual clauses does not provide any guarantees of capacity funding. So if you look at the treaty relationship, there were specific understanding and guarantees, and that's not being fulfilled. So in all the different things that has been going on with any legislation, that's what's been happening. And yesterday, you heard things about corruption. Like this, you could look at it in that context too, because there's something not right. We're at this, like our sister earlier on was that we talked about crumbs. The other thing is that we're on the side. There's some things going on. When you're traveling around together, there's people that are in front of you. They see everything. And this is where you are. We're in the back, and you're yelling at us and saying, what do you want? What can you see? We can't see anything. We don't know what we want because we're not there. So we need to be there. The treaty relationship says that it's going to be coexistent. We need to be there. And we need to look at how we need to do that. That's the point that I wanted to make, because the process, this is the point that I'm making, is the process. Yes, we need capacity. The other thing is that there is a jurisdiction. There's the Crown's jurisdiction, and there's Dene jurisdiction. It's coexistent. We need to work together. That's how we need to move forward. So I just wanted to let you know that's how I feel, and that's how we need to move forward.
Thank you very much. And we will now go to the Cree Nation government, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and honorable committee members. Naskumanchis at Semendo, Jijin Hibita, Jiji Darachut, Jijim Hidat, Denyan Dinim Natske. Just wanted to give thanks to our Creator, for the gift of our language in Cree and the ability to speak it. My name is Grand Chief Abel Bosom, and on behalf of the Cree Nation of the USG, I am pleased to appear before you today. I'm accompanied by Dr. Sarah Paragamskim, who is chairperson of the Cree School Board and CEO of Ansjogm, which is our cultural institute. Dorothy Stewart, our Cree language coordinator and of the social and cultural department, and Tina Paduabano, responsible for Indigenous relations of the Cree Nation government, and Paul Joff, our legal counsel. The Cree Nation of USG includes more than 18,000 Inuit or Cree, occupying our traditional territory of the USG. This territory covers over 400,000 square kilometers and is located mainly to the east and south of James Bay and Hudson Bay, with additional territories in Ontario. The Social and Cultural Department is responsible for Cree Nation's language program and policy, and Stiugmuk Cree Cultural Institute is a museum, archive and library, and a research and education center. Cree School Board, over the past decades, has played a large role in Cree language research and program development, and as a primary instrument for Cree language maintenance in our territory. With regards to Bill C-91, from the outset, we wish to acknowledge the potentially far-reaching significance of Bill C-91, an act respecting Indigenous languages. At the same time, we fully recognize the important challenges associated with reclamation, revitalization, maintenance, and strengthening of the Indigenous language. Clearly, there must be an adequate space and flexibility to accommodate the perspectives and priorities of each Indigenous people or nations. It is important to note that according to the UN General Assembly, sustainable development includes language and cultural development. Also, there is a consensus that no one must be left behind. This explicitly includes Indigenous peoples. In our experience, implementation and enforcement of legislations are always a challenge. In particular, adequate resources are urgently required to carry out the programs and other initiatives, the language development and preservation at all stages. At this crucial point, we need more clarity in regards to the specific global amount that the federal government is setting aside for at least the next 5 years. This will help our ongoing planning and other activities under Bill C-91. Fluency in languages is recognized globally as the most important standard. We are pleased that Bill C-91 consistently refers to fluency as a key standard and objective. In addition, we wish to underline the critical importance of the bill linking Indigenous peoples' language to the call to action, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. At the same time, it's important to underline here that as an Indigenous people with the right of self-determination, we view our rights in a holistic manner. All of our inherent and pre-existing rights are interrelated and interdependent. Our rights to language and culture cannot be separated from other inherent rights, especially our rights to the lands, territories, and resources. With respect to Cree language and culture, the word we speak derive from our relationship with the land. The words, thoughts, and worldviews that we pass on to our children are connected to the land. These essential interrelationships are explicitly affirmed in the UN Declaration in the 7th preamble paragraph. Recognizing urgent need to respect and promote the inherent right of Indigenous peoples, which derive from their political, economic, and social structures, and from their cultures, spiritual, transition, histories, and philosophies, especially their right to the land, territory, and resources." End of quote. Therefore, it's important to highlight the pressing need for an umbrella legislation under the UN Declaration. Such legislation, namely Bill C-262, has already been passed by the House of Commons and is currently in second reading in the Senate. We are proud that Romeo Sagnas, a member of our Cree Nation, sponsored Bill C-262, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. This bill will advance the human rights of Indigenous people in Canada. It will also set an important precedent for Indigenous peoples in other countries worldwide. As underlined in the call to action number 43 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, calls on the federal government and all levels of government to implement the UN Declaration as a framework for reconciliation. Therefore, implementation of the Declaration is inseparable from the TRC call to action. Any member of Parliament that fails to support the UN Declaration is also undermining Canada's National Reconciliation Initiative. As highlighted in the preamble of Bill C-91, The year 2019 has been proclaimed by the General Assembly of the United Nations as the International Year of the Languages. Among others, draw attention to the critical loss of Indigenous languages and the urgent need to maintain, revitalize, and promote Indigenous languages. Such loss or severe impairment of Indigenous languages, whether through residential schools, dispossession of lands, territories, and resources, forced assimilations, destruction of culture, or other acts of colonization, must be redressed in authentic ways. Such ways must respect our ability to determine ourselves how we will maintain our language and the vehicle that we will utilize to do so. We look forward to working harmoniously with the federal government and others to achieve the critical objective of Bill C-91.
Thank you very much. We will have a bit of a faster round with 5 minutes, beginning with Mr. Andasangari for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and this is the last panel for the study in this committee, so I think we've gathered a very esteemed panel of experts and people with lived experience. I just want to thank you all for being here. And Grand Chief Littlechild, if I may ask you to offer your thoughts. I know you were trying to finish it off, but I'm wondering if you can finish off give us your suggestions on changes, because I know we had an earlier conversation and it's very important that we have it on the record.
Yes, thank you very much, and I'll be very brief. There is mention of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, but I think there are two other pieces of legislation that we should look to guide our discussion or our further drafting Bill C-91. The first one is the Organization of American States, OAS Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Because in that declaration, there are two articles, very specific articles, that actually really speak to the bill. The second instrument I would refer to is the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Under the Convention on the Rights of the Child, especially comment number 11, that talks about Indigenous children and their rights to language. Those two international references should be considered, as well as the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The second point I was going to make, and I was going to propose another whereas clause, or indeed an operative article. And let me read it very quickly. Whereas treaty stories, songs, ceremonies, traditions, and beliefs are carried in Indigenous languages, Indigenous history, oral testimony, and language must take paramountcy in interpretation of rights and responsibilities according to the original spirit and intent and as understood by Indigenous peoples. Lastly, I would say that it's important to, I'll give you a list. There's about 9 specific places where I believe you could insert treaty to strengthen Bill C-91 from our perspective, because right now treaties are only very minimally mentioned in 2 places. Thank you.
Thank you, Grand Chief. And Clerk, for the record, Mr. Clerk, if that could be recorded in terms of the suggestion the Grand Chief gave us, he read out. I think it'd be important to have it recorded. And this is to Chief Antoine, and I'm going to try to come to the Cree as well. I just want to have a very specific question relating to official languages. Now, NWT, I understand there are 11 official languages in NWT. What is the status of those languages with respect to access to service? Are you able to obtain services in Dene, for example, with from the provincial government, or are there challenges to implementing the multilingual nature of NWT?
What we're challenged with there is that it has, like this is just my experience, is that it has gone in-house. There's no real relationship with it from our perspective. And there's an idea. There again is that there's an idea, and they thought that it would work looking at this. And Canada had understood that they were going to make a separate legislation. And when they were talking about it, for all the Aboriginal languages in Canada at that time, 1984, the budget for it, for all the languages in Canada, was $250,000. Okay, so, they were asked if they wanted to take that money, and they said no, it had to be a separate. So when they did a separate legislation or a separate process, then they were given some money for implementation, and also I think it's $18 million for like in a span of 3 years. However, it's a machinery that did all this processes, I guess. And here we are again. We're at the porch, I guess, so to speak. And we're not involved with the capacity or also the processes. So that's where it stands, and right now it's very minimal.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Urdiga for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. And over this process, I've learned a lot. I do have family that are First Nations and everything else, but you don't really grasp how serious this is when you go from coast to coast to coast. We see young people moving to the cities, more urban, and they're losing the connection to their home community. So their language, their culture is slowly slipping away. And I don't know what can be done to solve that, but I guess this is a great first step. And one thing that I've been told numerous times, we want a grassroots approach to this. We want individual communities to be able to have the flexibility to do what they need to do in their community. Not every community is the same. My first question will go to Grand Chief Lowchild. Do you believe that it's important that it be grassroots established? Like, we're not going to have some kind of new bureaucracy handing out money and strings attached to it. Do you think it should be grassroots and having the ability to do what needs to be done to ensure that the next generation has the tools they need to bring back their culture and language? Mr. Lowchild?
Yes, I think it's the foundation of it has to be the family. And I'll give you 3 examples of what my community has done in an effort to revitalize our language in connection with young people, for example. We have a Cree app for children. We also have a Cree dictionary. And we've also now have a declaration that the Cree leaders have made that in our territory, Cree is the official language. So it's forcing us and causing us to use our language more because it's the official language for our territory. Not to deny the other 2 official languages, but for our territory, our chiefs and leaders have said Cree is the official language. So those are 3 small steps, I think, but it's what's happening is it's filtering down into the lower, to the children's level, and that's where I think the foundation has to come from.
2 minutes. My next question is to Mr. Antoine, Chief, I don't know how to say the last name correctly. Antoine, okay, excellent. Yeah. So in your community, what are the challenges? The young people, are they starting to say, I want to learn our culture, our language? Because I know for a time there, according to stats, the number of fluent speakers has been going down, down, and down. So in your community, what initiatives have you put in place to ensure that moving forward, that there'll be more Dene speakers in your community?
On the first part of your question is that our young people are very hungry for it. There was a young, probably in the 30s, group, young people, they call themselves Dene Na Wo, means smart Dene. And they really started working with the older people about the way of life and trying to get much of the language as they can. And the process that they use is traditional moose hide tanning. And so they also have a urban moose hide tanning, which tells you, and you'll see that you have quite a large amount of young people that are engaged in that. So that's an example of how things are evolving. In terms of programs and projects, is that for me, sometimes we can get too mixed up with a lot of logistical kind of lack of money type of stuff, but it doesn't really do that much for the language. You need to really come from the language. So on I think the gentleman that spoke a little bit earlier, or asked a question, is about language. You got to look at, when you say community, what is the context in which you're saying community? And I think we're so stuck with different borders, like provinces, all these different municipal zones and things like that. I think we're so caught up with that. The way you need to look at it is that you need to look at the region of the language. Yeah, that's how you need to work with the people of the language. And so you need to develop. You need to support and assist the people there to do the capacity and also the processes.
Thank you very much. And we will now go to Mr. Saganash, please.
How much time? 5 minutes?
You have 5 minutes.
Nistam gadget, Nastawin, and Skumon, suggesting games, so Wabam de Goods, Gabadegums, it's the Bajamuno, Wajem out Nimshits, Dorothy, Tina, Sarah, and Steshits, Willie, Abel, Noakamagan, Gerald, get Paul, Noakamagan, Gishing Gada, Tinskumno, Kadukshinyak. Maybe I want to start with you, Mr. Little Child, with a general question. A lot of what we have to do in Ottawa now has to be based on solid foundations for the future. One of those things is the TRC report and the calls to action of that report, and the other part is the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. After you have read the Bill C-91, do you see any incompatibilities between C-91 and those two important foundational documents?
Incompatibilities?
Yeah.
No.
No?
They're complementary.
No, not between the UN Declaration and TRC report. I'm talking about those two documents vis-a-vis C-91.
Two documents meaning?
I mean, TRC report, calls to action, and the UN Declaration on one hand, and Bill C-91 on the other hand. Is there any incompatibilities that you see there?
Well, I'll still say they're compatible because one supports the other. And by that I mean the UN Declaration supports C-19, and so do the TRC calls to action support, or actually respond to the TRC calls. I'm criticized sometimes for saying this, but it's like a braid of sweetgrass. There's 3 strands, a braid of sweetgrass. One is the UN Declaration, the TRC calls to action, and now C-91. And they're actually a braid, a same braid. And it
Not C 262?
well, that's what I mean with two UN declarations, sorry. 262. They're complementary. They support each other, in my view. I don't think there's a contradiction, in my estimation, anyway.
Thank you. Grand Chief Bosom, always happy to see you. In this bill, there are a lot of omissions and things that can be improved in my mind, and I mentioned those in my speech when this bill was introduced. Half of it which was done in Cree, and 10 minutes in Cree and 10 minutes in English. One of the things that I mentioned in my speech was that in Article 6, where Article 6 talks about the recognition by the Government of Canada. It says the Government of Canada recognizes that the rights of Indigenous peoples, recognized and affirmed by Section 35, as the only source in Bill C-91 for language rights, Indigenous language rights. Do you think, and this was mentioned by Chief Antoine, do you think that there could be additions to this clause that mentions the United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous Peoples and treaty rights as well, according to the Cree Nation government?
Yes, I think the more you can make reference to all the efforts that have been made, whether internationally or in Canada. I would also support the point that Grand Chief Littlechild said about the treaties. In our case, I mean, we signed a treaty back in 1975, and we know that in the first 20 years we had problems implementing it because we were expecting Canada to implement it, and didn't happen, and it led to about 30 court cases. It wasn't until after we renewed that agreement that since then we've taken over. We've assumed the responsibility of implementing our treaty, and I think this is something that we would look forward in, if this bill gets passed and resources are made available to do it.
The end of your time period as well, and this is actually the final panel that we have had for C91. I want to thank you, all of you, for your contributions. It was actually, today we had a lot of really helpful testimony as we wrap up our study of this bill, so thank you very much.